So the aggregations that we created in the previous script helped us to consolidate 13 plus million records down to just over 300,000. That's a nice first step. But it's still a lot of data to consume. By the decision maker. You know, when the analyst examines the DF summary that we're going to create below, that's created below, the shape of the data frame may not be optimal for the evaluation of a store. All right, so let's load our data. Right, so we gotta do all our usual stuff. Import pandas as PD. We're gonna read in the data frame. So we're gonna PD read underscore CSV. And we want the sales final 6/30/2021 dot CSV. Right. We want, I always want to make that change with the sales date. Right, PD to date time. And that is DF, and that is sales date. Okay, so we want to do all those things. Let's do our group assigned to the variable grouped DF dot group by, and here we want to group by two variables, store and brand. All right, all right. And then we want to create the DF summary, right, which is grouped. And then we want to execute this on sales quantity and sales dollars. And the aggregation we want to use, and we'll just type in versus using the NumPy measures, mean, sum, and standard deviation. Okay, I think that's all. So let's run all this stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this all in a cell, and I'm going to run that entire cell. So that way it'll all happen at the same time. So I'm going to go up here and run the cell. All right, so and I had already changed my directory to where the data is. And while that's loading, what we want to start talking about here is creating different tables to evaluate the data, right? So we may have to create to evaluate the data. Right, so creating these different tables to evaluate the data may be necessary. Just do a little grammar for myself. in DF summary, and we'll pull that up in a minute when it's done. The indices, and it looks like we're done. So let's go take a look at our variable view. Yep. For some reason it only did, what did it do? It should have done it. I'm not sure why we're not seeing variable view here. We got that. I'm not really sure why that didn't work. Let's run this. There we go. Okay. So it was still working, I guess. It just didn't, for some reason, it didn't do it. All right, so now we have our DF summary. All right, let's open that up with our 300, a little over 300,000. And we can see there's a couple of row indices and a couple of column indices. All right, and we'll get a little bit more information on that. Right, so we can see in DF summary that the indices are our store and brand. Right, we bring that back up, we can see it. Right, store, right, and this is the brand. So index 0 is store, index 1 is brand. Whoops. And you can determine this, right? You can if you didn't want to look at it, you can always just type in. You can determine this by using df.index.names, right? So you can always do it that way, right? We'll show that in a minute. In fact, I'll show it right now. Well, it's df summary .index.names. Okay, and I can run that, and that should work. And there we go. There's my store and brand. So those are my two indice names. There are two different levels. There's two different levels in our columns as well, right? It makes it a little trickier. Right, and you can see that, right? You have these two, here's the two indices, but we also have these two column levels, right? Level 0 and level 1. This is index 0, index 1. This is level 0, level 1. Right? So because we've got that, right, we think the first level is sales quantity and sales dollars. And the second level is sum, mean, and standard deviation. Okay. Now, we can also find out what that is by using something similar to what we did up here, but instead of index, column names. So let's put that in there. All right, and it's columns. All right, and let's run that. And we see, oh, it doesn't give us the column names. That's interesting. It's not names, it's levels. Right? Not names, it's levels. Now it's giving us the different levels. So we got sales quantity, sales dollars in that first level. And then we got sum, mean, and standard deviation in that second level. Or level 0, level 1. Remember, it always starts at 0. All right, so now equipped with this information, I can call any store and brand, right? So the analyst, knowing this information, can call up or output any store by brand by putting in the two indices. Okay. For example, maybe I'm just interested in store 1 and brand 58. Okay. So let's see what that looks like. Let me get some, move this up a little bit so you can see it. So we can go in and use the .loc function, .loc, and we can look for in the indices we can look for 1 and 58. So this is, you know, you're putting both indices in here. So I'm looking, here's indices 0, indices 1. So I'm looking for 1 and I'm looking for 58. And if I run that, I should get an output of what's in there. All right. So this is what it does. It tells me, okay, 1 and 58, I've got sales quantity. 101, I got mean, I got the standard deviation, and I got sales dollars. All right. And I can always go back and just make sure that I'm pulling out that correctly. And I can look at store 1 and 58, and I can see all of those numbers just got pulled from my script. There it is, 101, etc., etc., etc. That's how I can query this data frame, this summarized data frame with these different levels in it. Well, what if I am just interested in store 1, brand 58, and just the sales quantity data? So I'm interested in store 1, brand 58, for just the sales quantity data. All right, so let's put that in there. So we got df summary. Again, we're using the .loc function, and now we want to put in 1 and 58. Okay. Oh, it's that. Got it, right? I got my brackets and parentheses mixed up. 1 and 58. And then I want to put in my data that I'm looking for in just the columns. So I'm looking here for sales quantity. Okay, so I'm going to run this. So this will just give me, this should only give me this information here. All right, so it should give me 1 and 58, but only for the sales quantity. And that's exactly what it gave me. This is just for sales quantity. Well, what if I wanted just sales quantity and the sum? So maybe I only want one number out of all this, right? So if I'm really being much more specific, I can refine this . Yeah, you can probably get probably take a stab at how you might write this. df summary dot loc bracket parentheses 1 and 58 bracket sales quantity, and then another bracket here for sum, right? So you can put in the indices here, but then you've got to say, I want to get this column and then this subcolumn. So let's run that, and it just gives me the sum. Right? And I mean, we can do all sorts of things. Maybe I just want the means, and I don't want sales quantity. I want the means for both sales quantity and sales dollars. So I'm going to just try this. I haven't done it yet. Dot LOC 1 and 58, and I'm just going to put in the mean, and let's see. I'm going to be interested to see what we get. I'm just going to see what we get. Didn't like that, right? Didn't like that. So that's, to me, I find that fascinating. I have to figure out a different way of getting that. I might have to put in sales, oops. And sales, oops. There we go. And then put another sales dollars. Put a quotation mark in there. And then get mean. It'd be interesting to see if this works. Nope, that doesn't work either. So I'm gonna have to figure out what, how to get both of those. But it starts becoming more problematic, right? So it's always interesting to me to figure out how you might go about doing something, kind of exploring a little bit and kind of pushing yourself.